guess in my own way, I sort of love you.
All right, but you don't have to slobber all over me.
In 1942, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby released a comedy that ignored logic, mocked its own plot, and let Camel steal entire scenes on accident. It featured nonstop ad-libbing, jokes that broke the fourth wall without warning, and a release date so perfectly timed it landed just days after a real military invasion of the very place the movie was pretending to explore. Road to Morocco wasn't just funny. It was chaotic, self-aware, and wildly improvised. And somehow, it became the most successful film in the entire Road to series. Today, we're diving into 20 weird facts that turn pure cinematic nonsense into comedy history. Fact number 1, released just 48 hours after a real invasion of Morocco. When Road to Morocco premiered in New York on November 10, 1942, audiences had no idea how uncomfortably close fiction had collided with reality. Just 2 days earlier, on November 8th, Allied forces had launched Operation Torch, a massive military invasion of Morocco and North Africa. As moviegoers laughed at Bob Hope and Bing Crosby wandering through a cartoonish version of the desert, real American soldiers were landing on actual Moroccan beaches under live fire. The timing was not just unfortunate, it was surreal. Hollywood had rushed the film into theaters as lighthearted wartime escapism, but suddenly its exotic setting was no longer distant or imaginary. Morocco had become a headline, a battleground, and a place where real lives were being lost. Paramount quietly avoided drawing attention to the coincidence, and yet audiences embraced the film anyway, proving that even in the darkest moments of global conflict, people still craved laughter, even if it came wrapped in accidental controversy. Fact number 2. A camel stole the scene, and it wasn't scripted. One of the film's most iconic moments, the camel spitting directly into Bob Hope's face,
This is probably one of the...
was never planned, rehearsed, or written into the script. The animal simply decided, in the middle of filming, to unleash its disgust straight at Hope while the cameras were rolling. What made the moment legendary wasn't just the spit, but what followed. Hope's reaction was pure, unfiltered shock, and Bing Crosby's laughter wasn't acting. It was genuine amusement at watching his co-star get humiliated in real time. Director David Butler immediately recognized that lightning had struck. Instead of calling for another take, he kept the scene exactly as it happened. In a film built on improvisation and chaos, the camel became an uncredited co-star, delivering one of the most memorable gags without ever meaning to. Fact number 3. Dorothy Lamour stopped memorizing her lines. By the time Road to Morocco went into full production, Dorothy Lamour realized she was fighting a losing battle. Bob Hope and Bing Crosby had no interest in sticking to the script. They ad-libbed constantly, rewrote jokes on the spot, and routinely blew past their written dialogue without warning. For Lamour, this made traditional preparation almost pointless. She later admitted that she eventually stopped trying to memorize her lines altogether. Instead, she focused on staying alert, rested, and ready to jump in whenever there was an opening. Sometimes she wouldn't even know when her cue was coming because Hope and Crosby themselves didn't know what they were going to say next. The result was a performance built not on precision, but on survival. And it perfectly matched the anarchic, freewheeling energy that defined the entire Road series.
Orville, there's something I must tell you. You're so young. Much, much too young.
Oh, well, you don't have to worry about me, baby. I just read a book.
Fact number 4, this was the first Road film with a truly original screenplay. Although Road to Morocco was the third entry in the Road series, it was the first one not adapted from an existing story or novel. Instead, Paramount pieced the film together from scratch, buying comedy routines and story elements from writer Ralph Spence's unused material titled From Rags to Rhythm. The plot became intentionally flimsy, serving mainly as a clothesline on which to hang jokes, songs, and fourth-wall breaks. This shift marked a turning point for the series. The filmmakers fully embraced the idea that story logic didn't matter. Only momentum did. Characters could die and come back. Settings could change without explanation, and jokes could contradict earlier scenes without apology. In many ways, Road to Morocco became less of a movie and more of a live comedy performance preserved on film, with the screenplay acting as little more than a suggestion. Fact number 5. Moonlight Becomes You dominated the charts for 17 weeks. Amid all the chaos and irreverence, Road to Morocco produced one of the most enduring romantic songs of the era. Bing Crosby's performance of Moonlight Becomes You struck a completely different tone from the film's non-stop comedy.
All dressed up to go dreaming. Now don't tell me I'm wrong.
Offering audiences a moment of sincerity in an otherwise absurd world. The contrast only made the song more powerful. Crosby's recording topped the Billboard charts for 2 weeks and remained on the charts for a staggering 17 weeks total. It quickly became one of his signature songs, played endlessly on radio stations during the war years. While audiences may have come for the laughs, they left humming a melody that would outlive the film itself. Proof that even in a movie that refused to take anything seriously, moments of genuine emotion could still break through. Fact number 6. They shot 2 different endings, and one was too real. As World War II intensified, Paramount briefly considered steering Road to Morocco toward a more overt wartime message. An alternate ending was filmed in which Bob Hope and Bing Crosby enlist in the United States Marines and cheerfully promise to meet again on the road to Tokyo. On paper, it sounded patriotic. On screen, it felt unsettling. The studio quickly realized that pushing the road formula into real-world combat territory shattered the film's fragile fantasy. Audiences weren't watching Hope and Crosby to be reminded of where the war was heading. They wanted escape, not enlistment. The ending was quietly discarded, replaced with something safer, sillier, and more in line with the film's refusal to take anything seriously, including its own conclusion. Fact number 7. This was the biggest box office hit of the entire Road series. Despite, or perhaps because of, its reckless humor and paper-thin plot, Road to Morocco became the most commercially successful entry in the Road franchise. It finished 1942 as the 4th highest-grossing film of the year, outperforming every other Road picture that followed. None of its sequels would ever reach the same financial heights again. The success surprised even Paramount. At a time when audiences were rationing food, money, and hope, they still packed theaters to watch a film that openly mocked logic, geography, romance, and even death itself. Road to Morocco proved that pure escapism wasn't frivolous, it was essential, and Hollywood took careful notes. Fact number 8. Hollywood used the wrong camels, and no one cared. For a film set almost entirely in North Africa, Road to Morocco managed to get one of its most visible details completely wrong. The camels wandering through the desert scenes are Bactrian camels, easily identifiable by their 2 humps. Real Moroccan camels are dromedaries, which have only one. The mistake was obvious to anyone familiar with the region, and completely irrelevant to the filmmakers. Accuracy was never the goal. The camels were props, visual shorthand for exotic location, and nothing more. In a movie where characters routinely die, resurrect themselves, and comment on the script, a geographically incorrect camel was practically the most realistic thing on screen. Fact number 9. Bob Hope played his own aunt, using groundbreaking effects. One of the film's strangest visual moments occurs when Bing Crosby is visited by the ghost of Aunt Lucy, a spectral figure who turns out to be Bob Hope in full drag. While the gag plays like a throwaway joke, the technical execution behind it was anything but simple. The sequence relied on optical compositing techniques that were still relatively new in the early 1940s. Hope's ghostly appearance required careful lighting, multiple exposures, and precise timing, all for a joke that lasts only seconds. The effort perfectly encapsulates Road to Morocco's philosophy: extraordinary technical labor in service of the dumbest possible payoff. It wasn't about spectacle. It was about the laugh. Fact number 10. A magic ring almost turned Bob Hope into a monkey. Among the film's many visual gags is a blink-and-you'll-miss-it special effects moment involving a magical ring that briefly transforms Bob Hope into a monkey. To pull off the illusion, director David Butler instructed Bing Crosby to stand perfectly still while Hope was swapped out mid-shot for an animal double. The effect was simple, fleeting, and deliberately underplayed. And that was the point. Road to Morocco consistently treated special effects as toys rather than showpieces. Instead of drawing attention to the trick, the film rushed past it, trusting the audience to either catch the joke or miss it entirely. In a movie obsessed with momentum, even magic transformations weren't allowed to slow things down. Fact number 11. The camel talked, and it broke the movie on purpose. At one point in Road to Morocco, a camel turns to the camera and delivers the line, "This is the screwiest picture I was ever in."
This is the screwiest picture I was ever in.
It isn't subtle, and it isn't meant to be. The camel's mouth was animated, using painted-on lips and carefully timed movement to sell the illusion, but the real joke wasn't the effect. It was the commentary. By allowing an animal to openly acknowledge the absurdity of the film, the movie completely collapses whatever reality it has left. The line isn't just a gag, it's a confession. Road to Morocco knows exactly what it is, and it refuses to pretend otherwise. Long before meta-humor became fashionable, this film was openly mocking its own existence while still charging admission. Fact number 12. It featured cinema's first affectionate interracial kiss. Hidden beneath the jokes and musical numbers is a moment of genuine historical significance. Road to Morocco contains what many historians recognize as the first affectionate interracial kiss in American cinema, shared between Bob Hope and actress Donna Drake. While brief and played lightly, the moment broke an unspoken barrier in an industry governed by rigid racial codes. At the time, Hollywood typically avoided interracial intimacy altogether, or buried it beneath stereotypes and evasions. That this milestone occurred in a comedy and passed without controversy is both remarkable and telling. The film's irreverence allowed it to slip past restrictions that more serious productions would never have been permitted to challenge. Fact number 13. Edith Head ignored reality and proudly admitted it. Legendary costume designer Edith Head never pretended Road to Morocco was aiming for authenticity. When critics or viewers pointed out that Moroccan clothing didn't resemble what appeared on screen, her response was blunt. If something was funny, it stayed. If Bob Hope wanted to wear it, accuracy didn't matter. Head treated costumes not as historical artifacts, but as punchlines. Exotic headdresses, absurd silhouettes, and deliberate exaggeration became part of the film's visual comedy. In doing so, she helped define the Road series' signature look, one that rejected realism in favor of instant recognition and immediate laughs. Fact number 14. The film earned 2 Oscar nominations. Serious ones. Despite its refusal to behave like a traditional movie, Road to Morocco was taken seriously by the Academy. It received 2 Academy Award nominations, Best Sound Recording for Lauren L. Ryder and Best Writing Original Screenplay for Frank Butler and Don Hartman. The nominations were a quiet acknowledgement that beneath the chaos was real craftsmanship. The sound design supported rapid-fire dialogue and musical numbers, while the screenplay balanced improvisation with structure just enough to hold everything together. Even a film that mocked its own plot still had to be built by professionals who knew exactly what they were doing. Fact number 15. The Library of Congress declared it historic. In 1996, more than 50 years after its release, Road to Morocco was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. The Library of Congress deemed it culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, placing it among only 25 films chosen that year. The decision wasn't about wartime timing or box office numbers, it was about legacy. Road to Morocco captured a moment when Hollywood comedy became self-aware, anarchic, and fearless, a style that would echo through decades of filmmaking. What once felt disposable was now officially history. Fact number 16. The film destroys the fourth wall and never fixes it. From the opening minutes to the final scene, Road to Morocco treats the fourth wall as optional. Bob Hope routinely acknowledges the audience, references the script, and comments on the movie's own structure as it unfolds. Near the end of the film, when Hope begins summarizing the story, Bing Crosby casually interrupts to say he already knows what happened. Hope's response is instantaneous. Yeah, but the people who came in the middle of the picture don't. The joke lands because it exposes the shared understanding between performers and audience. This isn't a world meant to be believed, it's a performance meant to be enjoyed. Long before modern meta-comedies embraced self-awareness, Road to Morocco was openly admitting it was a movie, daring viewers to keep laughing anyway. Fact number 17. The director admitted he barely directed anything. Director David Butler later joked that he felt guilty accepting a paycheck for Road to Morocco. According to him, working with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby mostly involved letting the cameras roll and stepping out of the way. "All I do," he said, "is say go and stop." The comment wasn't false modesty. It was an acknowledgement of how the film actually worked. Hope and Crosby controlled rhythm, dialogue, and timing themselves, improvising entire exchanges on the spot. Butler's role became less about shaping performances and more about capturing lightning without letting it burn down the set. Fact number 18. A radio adaptation kept the chaos alive. In April 1943, Road to Morocco made the jump from screen to airwaves when Lux Radio Theater broadcast a 1-hour adaptation of the film. Bob Hope and Bing Crosby reprised their roles, condensing the already flimsy plot into an even looser structure designed for radio audiences. The adaptation preserved the spirit of the original rather than its story. Jokes were retooled, dialogue was reshaped, and the fourth wall bent even further. The broadcast helped cement the film's legacy beyond theaters, ensuring its humor survived long after wartime screenings had ended. Fact number 19. The film was sold and saved by television. In 1958, Road to Morocco became part of a massive sale of over 700 Paramount films to MCA/Universal. The deal allowed the movie to be distributed on television, introducing it to an entirely new generation that hadn't experienced its original theatrical run. Television transformed the film from a wartime curiosity into a comedy staple. Late-night broadcasts and weekend programming kept it alive, turning once topical jokes into timeless absurdity. What began as escapism for a specific moment became a permanent fixture of American film culture. Fact number 20. Anthony Quinn resented roles like this, even as they made him famous. Anthony Quinn's performance as the desert sheik Moulay Qasim is energetic, theatrical, and unforgettable. Yet Quinn later expressed frustration with roles like this, lamenting that early in his career, he was frequently typecast as exotic villains rather than serious dramatic characters. Ironically, performances like his in Road to Morocco helped make him a recognizable face. While Quinn would later earn acclaim for far more complex roles, this film stands as a reminder of the narrow lanes Hollywood often imposed, even on actors destined for greatness. Road to Morocco shouldn't have worked. Its timing was impossible, its logic non-existent, and its humor openly rebellious. And yet, it became the most successful film of its series, and one of the most influential comedies ever made. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's most carefree comedy, let me know which fact surprised you the most. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover more strange stories hidden inside classic cinema.